Hello, and welcome back to another Live with Lilo broadcast. Thank you so much for hopping on. My name is Lilo Grunwald. Here, we'll just take my glasses off, and I'll be all blurry. I can't see. So, thank you for hopping on. I'm very excited. I'm kind of nervous. I am interviewing Eric Fogel, creator of Celebrity Deathmatch, someone I went to high school with. This is a part of my Long Beach High School Spotlight series. And hi, everybody. Oh, thank you, Kelly. I had no time to blow dry my hair because I was nervous. So we just went with the natural style. Good morning. Hi, everybody. Hi, Ira, Brian. Hello. Hey, now. So, hey, Megan. Thank you for hopping on, everybody. So, those of you that have been watching my lives know that I've had a little Wi-Fi difficulty doing this with someone who lives from out of state. And it's been quite a challenge. And I am literally in my hallway, hoping that the dogs don't bark, hoping that I don't pixelate, and hoping that I don't freeze up. So, hi, Melissa. Hi, Scott. Hi, everybody. So we're just going to wait for Eric to hop on. I should see him. Hopefully he'll give me a little, let me just invite him so that he knows. Give me 1 second. Invite him to watch. And give me 1 second, you guys. Always a challenge. Guest requests. Add him. We'll just wait for him. I'm adding him. Hopefully he is watching already. All right. Oh, he is here. This is exciting.
Hey,
I'm
Lilo.
so nervous.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So everybody, this is Eric Fogel coming to us live from Los Angeles, California. Hi, Eric.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. I like the hair.
Good. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I was just explaining to Kelly, who's on and watching, that this is my natural state. I had no time. I was nervous. And it's funny because we went to go see Lindsey Sterling and Evanescence last night, and they were outstanding, by the way. Lindsey Sterling is such a powerhouse of a talent. And she made a couple of speeches, and one of her speeches was how nervous she gets before she goes on to perform. And I think that any performer or anybody that has to go do an interview, you get a little bit of a butterflies, okay. but it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. So thank you so much for doing this. Everyone's kind of excited to, oh, that's funny. Looking good, baby. John is watching on my Facebook because I want him watching from mine. Okay. And he just made the comment. I didn't write that. Looking good, baby.
He's got your back.
He's hysterical. Yeah, okay. That's crazy. All right, so everybody's very excited to hear about you, Eric. This is not about me or Lindsey Sterling, and I want to get right down to it. So welcome. This is Eric Fogel again, and Eric, tell us, where did this crazy animation start from? Like, everybody knows Celebrity Deathmatch. People know about the head, but you are most well known for Celebrity Deathmatch, of course, and that's what people want to hear about. But we also want to hear about your current developments. If you can talk about a little bit about it, and let's start from the beginning. Let's start with very young Eric, okay. Because I know you as very young Eric, hanging out at parties in high school. And what did you do? Did you doodle in class? Did you have a natural talent?
That's a good question, Lilo. Yeah, let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, as far back as I can remember, I was always interested in drawing, just drawing little characters, doodles, pictures, what have you. I was fortunate in that I got to attend Magnolia Open School, which for those of you who might remember was an elementary school in right in the middle of Long Beach. And it was, when I went, I think it was sort of it was a new thing. Like, it was something that they were sort of testing out, this open school program, right? Do you remember this?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a vague recollection. I didn't go to Magnolia, but yes, I do have that recollection.
Yeah, so I think the idea was that it was supposed to sort of promote creativity, and I mean, at least that was sort of my takeaway. I went in there in first grade, so I was there first through sixth grade, and um, I got, I got my some academics out of that school, but I got a lot of sort of creative uh, um, motivation from being in that school, and they sort of gave you kind of a wide berth and kind of allowed you to explore and create. And I think that really helped fuel my passion for drawing. And um, the school was just really supportive in that way. Um, I didn't uh, I didn't learn my times tables till late in the game, probably as a result of that. But I did get a lot of drawing experience from being in that school.
Let me ask you this. So the school was supportive, but were your parents supportive? Because everyone's like, "Oh no, you should choose something that's more stable. Don't go into the arts because that's very unstable."
I was really lucky in that my parents were really supportive of my artistic passions, and so what in one way that they helped me out, they sent me to like an art camp called Usdan. I think it's still around. It's sort of like it was on the North Shore of Long Island, and it was just like it wasn't really designed for athletics. It was really geared towards art, music, theater, uh, ceramics, painting, what have you. And that was also something that was really helpful in just fueling my passion for it. Um, and then the other, I'll always remember that my mom. So beyond that, she felt that she didn't want to really push me to take a lot of art classes. She felt that if this was something that I really loved, I would just find a way to do it on my own. So beyond the USDAN experience, there wasn't a lot of formal art training that I had. And in high school, by the time I got to high school, because I was sort of jammed up with other things, music and foreign language, I didn't have a lot of room in my schedule either to take art classes in high school. So really, I ended up just in my room in my spare time drawing. So I was never just sitting around idle. If I was hanging out at home and the TV was on, I was always just doing something creative.
What were you drawing? What specifically were you drawing?
I'm glad you asked. So I have prepared a little show and tell here today. So, you know, one of the things that I really liked to do as a kid growing up was to create my own little comic books. And this was a way for me to really express myself, um, to tell stories. And that was really what it came down to. So this is one of the really, this is going back, but I don't know if you can see it.
I'm looking at my tiny phone, but hopefully everybody else out there can see it.
It's called New Dimensions, I believe, and it's just filled with, the pages are actually falling apart now.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's basically, it tells a little story. It's 2 panels per page,
That's fantastic.
and it's like a little action adventure story, and I have a whole box of these little comic books that I made as a kid, and I didn't have access growing up to a camera. So for me, this was the way that I was able to express myself and to tell these weird little stories, and just kind of get all these ideas out of my brain and into something that was tangible that I could share with people. And it wasn't until later, that I realized that what I was really drawing were like storyboards, which, if you know about filmmaking, in animation or live action, storyboards are, it's a way to sort of map out how you want to shoot a movie or tell a story visually. So, you have a script, which is the words, that the characters are going to say and the actions as they would play out. But to really be able to visualize how something's gonna translate to the screen, you have to go to that next step, which is to draw it.
Right. Wow. I love that you have those. They're worth a lot of money.
I don't know. I don't know about that, but I do cherish them, and I do enjoy going back to them once in a while.
Yeah. Well, that's the beginning. It's the beginning of Eric Fogel, the wonder. That is so cool. So
Yeah.
does he have a name? Was there a name of this? Yeah.
This guy was, let's see, Andrew Zodioid.
Zodioid?
Yeah, his goofy little name. I don't know why. I had a bunch of a stable of characters that I would sort of create that were, original to me, and those were the ones that I would use to tell these goofy adventures.
That's amazing. Amazing. Now, did you ever get in trouble for doodling in class? Because I know that I did. I was never interested in what was actually happening in class because I was always off in my own world. And I am no animator, but I was just doodling on the corners of my pages.
Yeah, I was not only doodling all over my papers, but the desks were, they were not spared. So every desk I sat at probably had some graffiti art that I got in trouble for. I did it in pencil, so I was able to just wipe it off. But yeah, that was, for me, that was a blank canvas.
That's funny. That's awesome. Now, so you did or you did not take an art class in high school?
So finally, in my senior year, since I really just sort of discovered that I didn't really have a lot of interest or use for math.
Me neither.
Ironically, yeah, it's like, well, we all need it, but I didn't understand it. And so by the time I was a senior, there was a little bit of an opening up in my schedule and an opportunity for me to take a class with Mr. Crystal. Hey, if you're out there.
Tell everybody who Mr. Crystal is, besides being our teacher.
Yeah, so Mr. Joel Crystal is the brother of Billy Crystal, also a Long Beach alumni, and he was the art teacher at Long Beach High School when I attended there, and so and he was wonderful. He was just he got me. He just kind of took the reins off, and he was, Eric, just glad you're here. Whatever you want to do, you want to paint, you want to draw, just go for it. So that was really awesome. Helped me to sort of hone my 3-point perspective drawings and, just drawing still lifes, whatever it was. For me, it was just Christmas. It was super fun.
I never had the opportunity. I hear that he's done some amazing things for, the high school kids, because he was so kind of giving and understanding as an artist himself. Yeah. And I think you're probably the third interview I've done where his name has come up. And I wish I had the opportunity.
Yeah, I also got to take classes with his wife, who taught in the English department. And she was also super fun. They were just really chill, and it was a good experience. I really enjoyed.
Amazing. Okay, so bring us back. So moving forward. So you graduated high school. You knew that you kind of wanted to go into art, film. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do at that point?
So yeah. So then I, probably around my senior year, I discovered that there was actually a thing called film school that you could go to and learn how to make films. And so for me, that was like, okay, where do I sign up? How do I do that? And so by the time when I was a senior, another sort of fortunate thing that my parents sort of really supported me and allowed me to do was I started taking film classes, college film classes at the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. While I was still a senior in high school, I would go on the weekends to Manhattan and I would take drawing classes and film classes. And I got to do that for a semester, maybe 2 semesters in my senior year while I was still at Long Beach High. And that was sort of a gateway into film for me. I finally got my first camera, which this is 100 years ago, but this was a Super 8 film camera. This was sort of pre-digital, pre-VHS. This was like film, you got to get it developed. You got to cut the film to edit it. It was, the real deal of filmmaking, which is actually really important, I think, to have that. And I could talk more about that in a little bit, but so that was like my introduction to filmmaking. And after that, I applied to NYU. I got into the New York University film program at Tisch School of the Arts, and I got to go to film school at NYU, which was kind of a dream.
Which is not very easy to get into. Correct?
I know these days it's way more competitive probably than it was back then. I don't think you had to submit a reel back then, but I think they wanted to know that you were, serious enough to want to pursue it. And so I was one of the lucky ones.
You are very lucky. So film school. So talk about that a little bit. I mean, was it hard? Did you definitely think that this was the career path that you were definitely going to take?
100%. I got into film school. I got in there, super motivated, just eager to learn everything that I could learn, not only about the techniques of making film, but about the history of filmmaking and, getting to sit in lecture halls and kind of go chronologically through, the history of all these incredible movies and talk about them and watch them was really so important to learning how to make movies. But for me, the really exciting part was just getting in there and getting your hands dirty. And the program was, designed sort of really in a special way to sort of ease you into it. So I think they started me off with, first you do still photography. And that's actually really important because that teaches you composition, how to frame your shots, how to light. So it's really interesting to think about, filmmaking, it is an art, right? So you want to think about the image that you're composing as something, beautiful and artistic. And so still photography allows you to sort of slow everything down and just kind of examine it, frame by frame. Then, you go into just pure like black and white film, Super 8 film, so no sound at this point, so you're only focusing on the image. Then they introduce sound. Then you go into color. So it's really this kind of cool sort of ramping up and sort of getting you in slowly, sort of building all your skill sets in terms of how to make movies. And then at the same time, you get your little crews together. So you're partnered up with different people who also bring different skill sets. So you're making connections. You're learning how to interact with people. You're learning how to be part of a group because filmmaking is such a collaborative process that you really, it requires you to rely on these other people and not just support one another, but, inspire one another. Right, to do your best work. So it's, you sort of figure out who those people are because, I think I'll say this, a lot of people that I was in film school with, I felt weren't really sure they wanted to be there, didn't really know what they wanted to do. So you had some of the people that were, super amped up, and then some that were just kind of like a little bit lost, kind of finding their way and,
Yeah, figuring out their life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll try film school for a couple of years, then I'll go into accounting or,
Yeah,
something like
right.
this.
Mm-hmm.
So I so when I was at NYU, I sort of became determined to really maximize my time there and make the most out of the experience because I knew I had access to all this equipment, all this great equipment, and I had access to other people that I could work with, as I said. So I think when I was there, NYU, I think they only required you really to complete maybe one film during the 4 years that you're there. So in other words, a complete movie with a beginning, middle, end, with sound and color. Um, when I was there, I completed four films. So
Wow.
again, I'm not saying they were masterpieces. They weren't even, you know, for me, they were really just ways to experiment and sort of try my hand at this and this and this. So,
Were they full length or were they shorts?
no, these were okay. So these were all short films. The longest one was 15 minutes long. That was my senior thesis film, and it was a live action monster movie featuring um, these carnivorous prehistoric rats that so the backstory here is uh, a team of archaeologists go on a dig. They discover a nest of prehistoric rats who turn out to be man-eaters, and then this team is suddenly fighting for their survival as the rats begin to pick away, members of the team one by one, and uh, it was all practical effects. I was also really interested in special effects, by the way. So for me, this
Okay.
was just like I was a kid in a candy shop. So I handmade these rat puppets that were like these animatronic puppets that had cable-controlled teeth with mouths that could kind of open up to show the horrible teeth, and I made like a whole dozen of these puppets, and we were actually shot on location in an abandoned quarry in New Jersey. I don't even think we had permits, so we had to like bribe the
Do it
bribe the sheriff.
sly.
We had to bribe the sheriff when he showed up because we were also using firearms, not
Oh.
not real special effects firearms, but they were like, "What are you guys doing with these guns?" And we had to it got a little scary. That was for me the most stressful part of the film was the fear that the police were just going to shut it down. And I was just
Yeah.
praying that we could just get through our days, get everything we needed before we got shut down by the local cops. But so that film for that so basically I was looking at a lot of student films that were these really personal stories about love and loss and suicide and just really kind of dark things. I said I just want to entertain people for 15 minutes. So that was the impetus in making that student film, was like I just wanted to do something that was going to scare people and thrill people and just give people a good time for 15 minutes. And I think I accomplished that. I did receive an award for my excellent work in special effects for that film. And
That's great.
so
And that was
that's
in college
super fun.
still.
What's that?
That was still in college, right?
Yeah, that was in my senior year in college.
That's
Um,
amazing.
Thank you. But the other thing that came out of college for me was, so two of the films that I did were live action. The other two were animated. One of the animated films that I did was a stop motion, just a cute little short film about a cat from outer space. The other short animated film that I did was based on one of these comic books that I was working on. So this is probably going to be a little bit more difficult to see because just a pencil drawing. I don't know if you can see that. This guy is called the Mutilator.
Mm-hmm.
And this was sort of inspired by Mad Max, the Mad Max movies, which for me was those were some of my favorite films growing up. this, kind of dark post-apocalyptic wasteland world. So I created this character who is kind of the superhero. He roams the wasteland, post-apocalyptic wasteland. And so my other senior thesis film was this animated film based on the Mutilator. And I'll always remember my animation teacher, who was sort of trying to convince me not to make it, because so it's a little bit violent. If you couldn't guess from the title, he's called the Mutilator.
Yes.
And it was, meant to be a satirical, kind of over the top exploration of that post-apocalyptic world. She felt that it was a little too dark, probably a little too violent. And so that's when I knew I definitely had to make that movie, because if she was having such an adverse reaction to it, I knew that other people would at least have a reaction to it. So I spent, I think, 3 or so years making that movie at NYU. So I started when I was a sophomore, because, with animation, so back then, this was all hand-drawn. So this was pre-digital, pre-computer. You had to draw all the drawings on paper, and then you had to hand ink the drawings onto clear sheets of acetate, basically a clear sheet of plastic, and then you had to hand paint every single frame of that animation in order to get something that moved. So incredibly time-consuming, super tedious, but for me, again, like, super fun. Like, this was something that I had always wanted to do, was to take these dopey little comic books that I was making as a kid and bring one to life.
Right.
So this was, I finally got the opportunity to do that. This is an actual cell. So this is an animation cell from that movie, from the Mutilator.
That is so great.
He is ripping the spine out of a bad guy. I don't know if you can see that, but
well,
he earns his name. You can actually,
is pretty dark.
Yeah, it is, but again, for me, like, a way to be entertaining. And you can, the films I believe are on YouTube, where you can watch the whole, I've done a few of these Mutilator short films.
So people can find that just by going to YouTube, putting your name in, and putting the Mutilator in?
Probably, yeah. I have a channel, so I think if you just go to Eric Fogel, I think you'll be able to find this stuff.
Okay. All right.
And so the Mutilator film was also, I received an award of excellence in animation at NYU. But more importantly, I received an invitation, or actually an offer, to get distribution on that film, on that original Mutilator film, from a national animation festival, which was called Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Festival of Animation, which is a really long title for a festival.
Yeah.
But so that was the first time that someone basically, showed an interest and basically wrote me a check and said, "Here, we want to share your film with America."
That's remarkable. See, kids, don't listen to one person's opinion. Go with your gut. Right? Right? Go with your heart and what you know to be true. That's what I always say.
Follow your passion. Yeah.
Follow your passion. Yeah. So despite what your teacher felt and thought, you went ahead with it anyway. Right. I think that's a big thing.
That's right. And it paid off.
So accolades to you. So you got these awards and you got a little money, and you were not even out of college yet.
That's right. Yeah. So then I was off to the races. I was like, okay, someone wants to pay me to make my little short films. I'm going to keep making these little short films. And so that I continued to do that. I continued to, get distribution through this festival. I was also able to work at an animation studio in Manhattan. Um, so that that was so once I graduated, that was like really my first full-time job. Was I was lucky enough to work at a stop motion animation studio, which is where I learned how to do stop motion animation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was actually I was really lucky because I came on as an assistant director, but we were doing this big project. It was like a Halloween special, and it was a little bit bigger than I think we all expected. So I got to do a lot of the animation on that project, and that's really the thing with animation is you can learn a lot of the tools of it, but you really have to really get your hands dirty and get in there and do it to really understand how things work, how things are supposed to move. um, and the only way to do that is to do it, and especially with stop motion animation, which is such a specialized craft, you know,
Right.
um, because it's you're manipulating something, and the camera is seeing it one way that is different than the way your eye is seeing it. So kind of learning like that disconnect, it's something that you just can only do by doing it.
By doing it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you get better and better at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, you worked at this animation studio. You learned a lot. You had a lot at your fingertips. You were extremely lucky to how. Oh, hello, puppy.
This is
That's just one of them, right?
Yeah, this is Hercules, by the way.
Hi, Hercules. You have two more though, right?
Yeah, they're around somewhere. He's a monster.
I love that. So you have
Sorry.
3 kids, 3 dogs, right?
Yes. Yes.
Did you get a dog per kid?
We didn't plan it that way, but it worked out that way for some reason.
I love that.
I
I
know
love my
what
dog. So okay, so you're in the animation studio. I know people want to know about how Celebrity Deathmatch
Yes.
came to be. How
Yeah.
did that come to be? This claymation that took over MTV.
Okay, so we are getting there. So now we're getting to MTV, right? So the Mutilator films were caught the attention of one of the executives at MTV, and at that time they had just announced that they were opening up an animation studio right in Manhattan, which was amazing.
Right.
So they actually hired me initially to create more Mutilator films, and we were going to do them as a series of short films. I believe the original plan. So if I'm assuming everyone remembers, Beavis and Butthead was like huge. That was kind of their first big animated series out of the gate, and it was like just a phenomenon. And so they were looking for other content to kind of partner with Beavis and Butthead. The Mutilator was, I believe, going to be something that they were going to watch on TV. Like, makes sense that they would enjoy, Beavis and Butthead would enjoy watching a show like Mutilator. It turned out that at around that time, there was some blowback because some kids somewhere out in the Midwest accidentally burned down their parents' trailer. This is a true story. So these kids burned down their parents' house by accident, and they said that they learned how to do it from watching Beavis and Butthead.
Oh.
So Beavis and Butthead, there was an episode where they were talking about fire. Fire's cool, fire's cool. So these kids, imitatable behavior, right? So they made a mistake. They got in trouble. MTV got in trouble because now they were suddenly teaching kids how to do bad things. This came back to hurt me because obviously the Mutilator is kind of seemed like a violent thing, and suddenly MTV got very nervous about doing a show like that. So I had established a relationship with them. They seemed to like me, so they basically said, we like what you're doing, we can't do this mutilator project right now. Do you have anything else? And this is something that I think is important to know, that how important timing is in especially in this business, because I went into that meeting sort of anticipating that they were going to kill my mutilator project, but I had kind of a backup plan. So I went in there with another storyboard that I did for another idea for a show called The Head. And so at the same meeting that they killed the mutilator project, I handed over the storyboard for The Head. Now, again, just timing and luck. Mike Judge, the creator of Beavis and Butthead, happened to be in the room. He was in that meeting. And I'll never forget that because I remember him looking at my storyboards and just laughing, at the drawings and at the imagery. And these two executives on either side who thought, Mike Judge, was the shit, realized, oh man, we better buy this thing. Mike Judge really seems to like it. And so that's how The Head was born. And that was the first real animated series that I did. I think I was 24 at the time, and we made two seasons of that show.
That's unbelievable. That gives me chills. I mean, that's like pretty much out of college. It's a dream come true. I mean, really, to go to school for something that you love and to actually see it come to fruition is amazing. Amazing. So I have a vague recollection of The Head. I mean,
yeah,
that's going back to what, 80, 90? No, that was
this would be like 95. What is it? 94. Melanie says
94. Okay. Yeah.
So the origin. So here I also have with me this sketchbook just to show you guys. So I also always had a sketchbook with me, and just trying to find the drawing. Of course, now I'm having trouble locating the drawing. It's in here. So I know it's back there. So this, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a sketchbook, and this was the original drawing that I did of I basically just, so one day I don't know why, but I just doodled this guy with this gigantic disgusting head, and I just wrote "some days," because maybe I was having a bad day, we all do. But so then as I was looking, and looking for inspiration for ideas, I came back to this drawing and I was like, well, that's a really weird thing. What could this be about? Like, why does he have this giant head? And I thought, well, what if there was like an alien that lived inside this head? And what if these two, this human and this alien, had this kind of like a symbiotic relationship where the alien provided the guy with confidence and, sort of just supported him. And in turn, the guy provided the alien with a home inside this head. And that was how the idea for the series came about. And this here is a cell, an animation cell, where you can see the alien, and he just occasionally he'll like just spill out of Jim's head in all kind of ridiculous, funny ways. And
you crazy creative genius.
So really, for me, like, this was a buddy comedy about an alien and a human. That was like, and they have these crazy adventures, and it was a super fun show to do. It helped me, it taught me how to not only, bring my vision from, these little pages into a TV series, but it taught me how to oversee an entire crew, an entire staff of people, in order to bring this vision to life. So, so for me, it was, just this incredible experience where I went from basically one person in the basement making these pictures to now suddenly I'm overseeing an entire crew of people.
It's amazing. Now, just remind me, was Mike Judge an executive producer on that?
No,
Or
he was not. We just shared time at the studio. We were there at the same time. He was working on Beavis, and I was working on the head, and we were friends, and we knew each other. But we were sort of colleagues. Um, but I do still owe him that debt of gratitude for being in the room that day.
and for laughing.
100%. 100%.
It is. It's like it is luck and timing, isn't it? It is totally luck and timing. And talent. I mean, talent has a lot to do with it. But yeah, being at the right place at the right time really, really is the true thing. It's truth.
Sure. Yeah, and also just being able to read a room and knowing,
Yeah.
Okay, this project not going to work, but maybe they're going to like this because they seem to like me. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay. So 2 years of that, 2 years at the head.
Yeah. Then then I was sort of figuring out my next move. I was directing a show called Daria, which I think people probably remember. That was also really fun. But in the back of my head, I knew that I wanted to do something in stop motion animation. Of all the stop motion, of all the animation, all the different types of animations, for me, stop motion was always the most interesting. I grew up watching these films, these Ray Harryhausen movies like Sinbad, the original King Kong, Davy and Goliath, Gumby. I mean, there wasn't a lot of it, and I think that's what made it so amazing to me. Was like you would get these little, once in a while you'd see something in stop motion, and when you saw it, you just had to sort of stop and look because there was just something so magical and so captivating about it. So I knew I wanted to bring something like that to MTV, and I also knew that if I could do it in a way that would appeal to an adult audience, a grown-up audience, that I would have something special, because until that time, there really wasn't, most of the stop motion stuff was for kids. It was young. And then, if you remember, like Saturday Night Live did like those Mr. Bill shorts, right? Where they took like a clay character and they killed it. And it's hysterical. So I felt like if I could somehow take that, and add this kind of wrestling component, and then add in this celebrities, like the satirical kind of celebrity component, then I would have something. And that was sort of the birth of Celebrity Deathmatch. So I presented this to MTV. It took probably about a year for them to really understand what it was. Mm-hmm. But once they came around, we sort of were off to the races. We did the first short that we did was Charles Manson versus Marilyn Manson, and that was again kind of an experiment just to see if this crazy thing was going to work. And we were sort of still figuring out the technology. We weren't shooting on film. We were capturing the animation using these video cameras, and we were shooting directly into the computer. And there wasn't a lot of, we were kind of pioneering. Like there just wasn't a lot of this done. So we were sort of figuring out a lot of the technology as we were creating it. So we were just kind of getting on our feet. We had done a couple of these short films, these short celebrity death matches, and MTV was getting excited. And finally they came to me and they said they wanted to do a Super Bowl halftime special. So we were, I feel like this was in the beginning of December. We were just maybe 5 or 6 weeks out for where the Super Bowl was. And in the past years, MTV was doing this kind of alternate programming, and they were doing like Beavis and Butthead specials that they were running during the Super Bowl. And they decided this year they wanted to do a celebrity deathmatch special. And I was like, okay, well, we don't have a lot of time, so we have to make this really, really simple. And because it takes a long time to move these characters around. So, you know, just tell us what you want to do, but just remember it has to be really, really simple. And they were like, okay, we know what we want to do. We want to see Hanson, the band Hanson, battle the Spice Girls. And I don't know if anyone remembers who Hanson was. They had a huge hit called Mbop. Obviously,
the brothers Hanson.
Obviously, I assume everyone knows who the Spice Girls are. So, and I'm shitty with math, but I know that that's like 8 characters. I think there's 5 Spice Girls and 3 Hansons. I think that's 8. Then you add the referee, Mills Lane, that's 9. And the announcers, Nick and Johnny. Then now we have 10 characters that we have to animate in like just a matter of weeks. And it was, at that time, it was myself and one other animator that were basically just creating all the material. And we literally worked nonstop for those however many weeks it was. We worked 7 days a week, pretty much around the clock to get it all done. And we finally finished. We finished it, and I'll never forget. So, I was finally able to come up for air. We finished all the animation. It was in the can. It was happening. They had started promoting this Celebrity Deathmatch special on the channel, and my wife Melanie and I were at a local mall, Massapequa Mall. No, not Massapequa. Fortunoff Mall. It's not there anymore. It's not even there. I don't think it's there anymore. We were just walking through the mall, just kind of just taking a little downtime, and I heard a group of like teenagers off to one side, and they were talking, and I overheard them, and they were talking about Celebrity Deathmatch, and it hadn't even aired yet, and I was like, oh man, that like people know about this thing now. This thing could become big. And so the Super Bowl halftime special aired on MTV. It was 1998, and it became the highest rated special in the history of the channel at that time.
Unreal. Yeah. With Hanson and the Spice Girls.
Hanson and the Spice Girls. Now, we did find out later that Hanson cried when they watched the battle because, spoiler alert, they all died.
Well, that probably comes from your days of the Mutilator. You seem to like death.
The show is called Celebrity Deathmatch, Lilo. What are we doing here?
Oh my God, friggin' hilarious.
Not only did they die, but all the Spice Girls died too. There was a little twist, in a dramatic twist. Marilyn Manson cuts the whole lighting rig in the wrestling arena, and it falls down and it just crushes everybody, and so he becomes like the undisputed winner.
Oh my God. One day when I have a film crew and I can come out to LA and do this interview again, we'll have to, cut to some of the videos and the older things that you've done. I think that would be hilarious. Okay. All the Spice Girls die.
Everybody dies.
Yeah. Everybody dies.
So yeah. So Deathmatch, so huge hit. And then not long after that, MTV decides they want to order the series. And at this point, I'm still thinking like, wow, this is really cool. It's a cool idea. I don't know that it's got legs to be a series, but we ended up doing over like 6 seasons of that show, and I think probably over 100 episodes. So
wow.
Yeah, people seem to.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that many.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you say?
What did you say?
Ben was born the same year.
And then my son Ben was born in 1998.
Wow.
So I gave birth to a TV show, and Melanie gave birth to our son.
That is unbelievable. Wow. So, okay. So, I mean, how did you feel after that first airing of Celebrity Deathmatch? I mean, that must have been like, holy crap, it's really happening, and this is my life now. I mean, that has to be such an amazing feeling to know that this is what you went to school for, this is what you doodled in high school for, and it all kind of
Yeah.
came to be.
Yeah, it was
And
pretty. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
no, that's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean it was a huge, sort of elated feeling. However, we were also then suddenly faced with this daunting task of, okay, so it took a lot of time to make that original, Hanson and Spice Girls, like that was like around the clock and, almost killed us. How are we going to make a whole series now, like, of this? And there was no infrastructure there at MTV. So, it was amazing that we were going to be able to make this show. I then had to figure out how to make the show because, as I said before, stop motion animation is kind of a specialized craft, and there aren't a lot of people doing it. And so we had to, first of all, we had to build the studio out. So this was all, just to give you kind of the lay of the land. MTV Animation at this point was at 50th Street and Broadway in Manhattan,
Right.
right across the street from Mamma Mia, which was what was playing there at that time.
Cats.
It was Cats before that. That's right. I don't know what it is now. I don't think it's Mamma Mia anymore.
I think it's School of Rock.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. Matter.
Yes. So it was Paramount Plaza, and it was like a corporate office building. So really the worst place imaginable for doing stop motion animation, where you need film equipment, you need movie lights, and you need large tables, and you need tools and all this equipment. And these were like it was a corporate office building with low ceilings and windows that you couldn't open or close, and so it was like really totally not, like, completely impractical. But that being said, we actually did set up this stop motion studio in this building, and we probably even violated a few health codes here and there because I think we had to create our own ventilation system in order to, because we were like spray painting, we were building puppets and probably doing things that you shouldn't do in that kind of environment. But that's where we made the show. So it was incredible because, a lot of times when you're doing especially TV animation, you have to outsource a lot of that work, either because it's too expensive or just because it's not practical to do it all in-house. In this case, the entire production was soup to nuts done under one roof, which is really kind of special and amazing because that really never happens. And we slowly took over the entire floor of this MTV animation department with our stop motion studios. So we would have like these stages set up in all these offices, cubicles, wherever we could find space, janitorial broom closets. We would take them over and we would turn them into stop motion stages. And
wow, kind of like my little hallway here that I'm working in.
Yeah.
You do what you have to, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. We would partition off areas, with hanging cloth and blocking out windows so that the light couldn't get in, and whatever we needed to do, we would make it happen.
You got it done. Right. You made it happen. You got it done. Right. So kids, go out there and make it happen if you have a dream.
The other amazing thing about that show was that, which kind of got, it spoils you a little bit, is that the studio, or MTV, was so supportive and very, very hands off, which most shows, I would say all shows, unless you're like you've been on, like The Simpsons is on for 20 years, I doubt that they still get executive notes, but most shows get executive notes. They get people who want to sort of be involved and give their 2 cents and what have you. And in this case, they were so hands off and just kind of let us do our thing, which was really wonderful. And again, it was just like, it kind of spoils you because that's not how it is in in general in any kind of film production, as you know.
Right. You have any claymation characters there that
I do,
you can
yeah.
show?
So here I also have some storyboards, but yeah, I'll cut right to the chase. These are this is the entire cast of Sex and the City. I'll try to get it
Oh,
so you don't so the glare isn't a problem, but you can see they're all
yeah.
Sarah Jessica Parker, Kim Cattrall, Cynthia,
Cynthia Nixon.
yeah, running for governor, right?
Yep.
And I always forget this one.
Kristen. I can't think of their names right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody else out there is like probably like, oh, that's Samantha, and
They'll
that's that
type
one.
it in. Yeah.
That's that is so cool. So you have a bunch of those in the house?
I've got some. A lot of them are packed away, but
Yeah.
got the Sex and City girls out.
Ugh, unbelievable. So you had a crazy run with Celebrity Deathmatch, the head before that. Where did it take you after Celebrity Deathmatch? Now, what's in the works now? Because we're at almost an hour now.
Oh my God,
Chat
that went fast.
I know, it does go fast.
All right.
So what's in the works for you now? You're in production with something. I know that you really can't talk about it too much, but talk about it a little bit if you can.
So to fast forward then, yeah. So so we moved out here. I think it's been exactly 10 years. I came out here to oversee another stop motion show, this time for Michael Eisner, and it was a Nick at Night, so it was a primetime kind of grown up stop motion show called Glenn Martin DDS. It was about a dentist who traveled with his family in an RV that was also his dental office. Kind of a weird but super fun show to work on. Since I've been out here in LA, I've worked at Nickelodeon, I've worked at Disney, and now I'm fortunate to be at DreamWorks Animation. I'm working on a new show, an animated comedy for kids that I'm super excited about, and I can't wait to share with all of you what it is. They have not announced the show yet, so I'm not really at liberty to talk about it, but it is scheduled to premiere early next year on Netflix. So that's about all I can say about it.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely look for it. You'll keep me posted, and maybe in a few months when we're ready to announce it, we can come back on and do another interview about it. Unbelievable. You have such a fantastic life, and I am truly sorry that we missed one another when I was still out in LA, but I think we just kind of like you were coming in and I was kind of coming out, and moved back here to Long Beach. But one day I will make my way back to LA, and we'll do this one-on-one. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Or I'll catch you in Long Beach one day. My mother-in-law still lives there, so.
Yeah, please. You gotta. Yeah, let me know when you're here. And I think everyone will be looking for. Oh, my dogs are getting restless now. Now they're like, oh, are you done with the interview? We can tell.
It's time to play.
You're gonna take us out now. Yeah, I'm sure everybody is going to be very excited to see what this new show is, and I'm sure everybody's going to be YouTubing you now and watching your past Celebrity Deathmatch videos and the head, and they're probably going to look for the one from NYU, the Mutilator, and yeah, check them out. Eric Fogel, everybody. I appreciate you so much for chatting with me, for doing this, and I hope that everybody enjoyed it. Really.
I did it.
You're awesome.
I had a blast. It was super fun.
Thank you. And so good to see you in face to face almost.
Same here.
And I'm glad that I didn't pixelate, I didn't freeze, and neither did you, and everybody was able to tune in. And you guys, if you come back and you're watching the replay, just let us know and shoot us some messages. All right? And any final words, Eric, before we go?
No, this was great. You know, I love Long Beach and miss everybody, and I hope you guys were entertained. I thought this was fun.
Yeah, well, we've got some amazing people that have come out of Long Beach. I'm sure every town has somebody, but I really truly believe that Long Beach is special, and we have a lot of special people that came out of this town and still do.
Totally.
So thank you, thank you, thank you, and everybody have a wonderful Sunday. Thank you for tuning in. Again, my name is Lilo Grunwald, and this was another Live with Lilo. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks. Bye, Lilo.
Bye.